Throughout our life, we grow, we mature, we go through experience that shape the way we view truth. Seeking truth is a serious matter. It's a search that obliges us humbly to question if our actions are standing on solid moral ground. I'm a Rwandan, living in Rwanda. But long time ago, I was living and working in France. And I learned valuable but very difficult lessons. This involved learning how biased press can create in the mind of their readers a world totally different from reality. This happened during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. I was learning terrible things from my family in my homeland. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the 7th of April. It is the official day of the commemoration of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. I will ask you with me to stand in the respect of all the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, but also against and for all victims of all the genocide across the world and across time. Thank you. This image contrasts sharply with the comfortable and safe life I had in France at that time. Some journalists approached my family due to our Rwandan roots. They wanted information about what happened in my country. We gave them interview. We told them everything, yet they distort the reality. They transform the victim in killers, the killers in victim. So we fire back, we call other journalists, we give other interview. It continues. Up to the time, the chairman of the hospital where I was working, a very good man, who happened also to be the mayor of Quimper City where I was working, called us, sat with us and asked us, what happened in your country? We told him. And he says, why don't you say that to the press? And we told him, we don't stop. That's what we say, but they totally distort our words. And in fact, what we were sharing with them was conflicting with the official stand of the French government that was supporting the genocide. And this man, who was a politician, very close to the power at that time in France, take the decision to call out the press when he understood how they had distorted our words. He gathered the press together. Himself didn't talk. Rather, he had us, the Rwandan doctors working in the hospital, sharing our account with the media. And it is the first time that in that part of France, and probably the entire country, an accurate account of what was happening in my country was reported by a key newspaper. This man showed me, he's called Bernard Poignant, the power of goodness and fairness. But it's not only that. We told him, don't take our words for it. Go and see by yourself. He went in Rwanda in the aftermath of the genocide, and when he came back, he testified to the French public about the reality in Rwanda. He had restored my faith in humanity. However, this experience with the press made me very cautious about the power of a biased media. 2 years later, I found myself back in Rwanda. It was tragic, fear, destruction, death, trauma surrounded me. Many times during those holidays, I was asking myself, how possibly can I leave the comfort I was in France to come back in my home country? In France, we had good school for my girls. I was working in an enabling environment, a good hospital, high-quality hospital. At that time in Rwanda, it was the contrary. There was no good school for my girls. We had to send my older girls back in France. We were crying. The hospital was a terrifying scene. We didn't have enough drugs, enough equipment. During the first 5 days of my work in my country, I saw more deaths than in 5 years in France. And worst of all, the majority of those deaths were preventable. However, if the holidays of my return in my country were dark, even darker than I can articulate in front of you today, it is the best decision I have ever made. And I learned a lot through my return in Rwanda. One experience in particular resonates with me because of my background as clinician and a lover of scientific truth. This experience really challenged my belief in quote-unquote scientific truth. At that time, during the early years, 2 years, of my return, I had little access to scientific journal. However, I love to maintain myself informed. And I love to maintain myself informed about the latest development because some of them can help my people. And I remember coming back from this part of the world, from scientific conferences, with my bag full of, not clothes, but thousands of kilos of books and scientific journal. Of course, I used to leave some space for the preferred cereal of my daughters, because we didn't have much, and I need to please them too. But at that time, we didn't have internet, and a subscription to any journal would have cost 6 months of my salary. So, with this effort, I remember one day being very excited because I saw 2 articles, scientific articles about Rwanda. However, as I read the articles in The Lancet, one of the most prestigious journals I have a great deal of respect for, I was sickened by the scientific recommendation of a man called Maurice King, who advised the world that children, like children in Rwanda, should not be treated if they had diarrheal disease with simple tools like oral solution for hydration, water, salt, and sugar. It was not worth to treat them, we should let them die. It's written. It's written. Just because they were promised a miserable life. I was outraged by this denial of the right to live for our children. But I didn't stay still. It frustrated me to action, and I started to read more, and I started to write human rights-based arguments for peer journals like The Lancet, to promote access to health for all. I work harder, to not fall in the failure of imagination, like my dear friend Paul Farmer liked to say. And it started in me a fire to unequivocally recuse and refute that one human being has more value than another one. And I'm very blessed to have continued this fight as Executive Secretary in the National AIDS Control Commission, as Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, and later during 5 years as Minister. And now, in my 60s, I start a new chapter of that fight as an educator. I'm so proud to be part of a group of dreamers that have built a new university to spread further ideas like all life is worth fighting for, that clinical service should be taught so that clinician doesn't left behind the poor, the vulnerable, and so that doing so across the world, we contribute all to break the cycle of disease and poverty. We teach our students that human rights are on all and for all, meaning all human beings deserve all human rights. We help our students to find their way to the truth of their patient using the analysis of the social determinant of health, with tools such as biosocial analysis and cultural sensitivity we all need. We create for them a space where they are safe to question us and to question the truth of the world, especially those truths who should not be there in a world that is just. And I'm so proud to contribute to educate them in the spirit of what Bernard Poignant told me a couple of years before. We train health sector leaders to focus on comprehensive management of programs so that the poor are served, and to understand that being healthy is an economic asset for families, communities, and countries, and that developing a health sector is totally embedded in human development and in nation development. And I'm very proud and happy to share that we have success. We are going to graduate next month our first cohort in Master of Global Health Delivery. End of 2018, we will start our medical school, followed by nursing school, dentistry, and we will grow. And I'm full of hope, because every day I see this growing legion of global health fighters ready to go and fight for a better world for all. I learn a lot by doing so, and those students impressed me. And I'm a very happy grandma. I want also to say that I have learned something. By standing in solidarity with the vulnerable, we can never, never lose sight of promoting truth. And that we should never be afraid of call out for truth, even if it means standing alone. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to start a fire that can lead and that can grow every day and will burn for a more just and equitable world. That was Maurice King. That is our university, the University of Global Health Equity, which have a great vision because we want to create a global platform for implementation science, for research, for reflection, for developing the world. Murakoze cyane. Thank you.